Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Just going to say a very quick good morning to Dan Carn, who's just joined us. I know that Footy and Gary Muirhead are in the chat, but Dan's literally just popped in while I was speaking. I probably need to start today with an apology over yesterday. Unplanned absence. What can I tell you? My Virgin Media connection suffered an outage in the early hours of Tuesday morning. An engineer was dispatched to fix the problem, but unfortunately, I had no internet connection at the time that the show was due to start. In fact, the problem continued right the way throughout the day. I had internet, then I had no internet, then I had internet, you get the idea. That was the case until 2:30 yesterday afternoon. But you will be pleased to know, that I didn't just waste my time yesterday. In fact, I spent a large proportion of yesterday compiling the Break Fast Sow bangers playlist on Spotify. Now, let me just get to the right place because I can actually share a link to that. Want to state it is very much a work in progress. I'm still adding songs to it. And if you've got any songs that you would like to dig, drive, dump, demolish to, then please let me know. But we do have more than 60 songs on the playlist, each of them designed to put you in the right frame of mind for some heavy digging, and there's some heavy songs on there as well. Got a few more to add that Gary Muirhead I think sent me overnight. I'll be adding those at some point today. You can check out the playlist yourself, assuming you have Spotify, using the link that I've just posted in the chat. Good morning to Mark Whiting and to Chris Ford, who have just arrived. Thank you very much indeed for being here. I will press your buttons in just a moment, though not in the biblical sense. Now, just one final thing before we get started this morning, and I'm kind of calling on your assistance here a bit. This morning I've published my final column for 2023. It's called Spare a Thought, and it talks about all those men and women in the demolition and construction industry that will be facing job and financial uncertainty this Christmas. You can read it free of charge over on our Demolition Insider website. To save you looking out, let me try that again. To save you looking it up, I've posted a link in the chat, and if you're on our WhatsApp group, you can find a link there too. Please give it a read, and just as importantly, please give it a share. It is a subject that's close to my heart, not least because some of the people in the audience have been genuinely affected by this, being laid off in the run-up to Christmas and that kind of thing. So if you would like to read it, or better still, if you would like to read it and share it, I'd be very grateful. Now, without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. It is Wednesday. Sorry, still swallowing tea. It is Wednesday, the 20th of December. Welcome to the Break Fast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, Manny extends its reach with a new boom lift. We're taking a walk around the latest Mechalax site dumper. We're talking electric minis with case construction equipment and introducing the Power Bully. Not an actual bully, but you'll like it, I think. Plus, we're going to be lighting up the holidays with those fine folks over at Bobcat. But before we get to all of that, let's peer back through the mist of time to see what was happening on this very day in history. On this day, in 1812, the first ever Grimm's fairy tales were published. In 1879, Thomas Edison did... trying to speak too fast for some reason this morning. In 1879, Thomas Edison demonstrated his incandescent electric light. In 1924, Adolf Hitler was released from prison. That was a bit of a misjudgment in my mind. In 1946, the greatest Christmas movie of all time, It's a Wonderful Life, premiered in New York, and I will be watching it again this year, possibly this afternoon. See how we go. In 1957, Elvis Presley received his draft papers to join the US Army for his national service. In 1974, the second movie in the Godfather franchise, and in my opinion, the best of the three, was released. In 1987, a ferry boat sank after colliding with the Vector oil tanker. More than 4,000 people were killed, making it the worst peacetime maritime disaster in history. And in 2007, Her Madge, the Queen, God bless her, became the UK's oldest ever monarch. Now, we're going to be sticking with the royal theme with our question of the day. We'll get to that in just a second. So let me remind you of it. It goes like, this. Yeah, as we count down the days, just 2 more after today, until Santa's arrival. Wow. He arrives a few days later, but I won't be here to witness it. It is time for another festive question. This year, most of us will be seeing our first ever King's speech after decades of the Queen doing her Christmas afternoon live stream. It wasn't a live stream, but you know the idea. So will you be tuning in? Will you be on the edge of your seat to see what old Sausage Fingers has to say? Will you be taking bets on what he might be wearing? Or will you be watching The Sound of Music instead? And I've no actual evidence that Sound of Music is on at the same time as Charlie Boy, but will you be watching? Let us know in the chat. We'll come back to that after the show. Right. These past few weeks, it appears that the Italian telehandler manufacturer Magni is coming out of hibernation to unveil several new models. The latest of those takes the company to new heights, as you're about to see. Well, Dan Cullen already knows the question I'm about to ask because he's already answered it. What do you make of that one, people? Is that Magni hot or is it not? Dan Cullen has already given it a big thumbs up for a hot. Anybody else got any questions on that? Footy doesn't fancy going in that. Do you know one of the things that occurred to me when you see the guy getting out at the end there, that idea of ducking under a bar? Could we not have come up with something better than that by now? Let's have a look. 45 meters. That's high. It is indeed high. Could do with that to trim the sycamore trees. Well, Magni, if you're paying attention, there's a fella called Jim Turner who could possibly use your help. Gary Muirhead is going for hot as well. Yeah, good to hear. Good to hear. Big fan of anything Italian, to be perfectly honest. mainly their food, but also big fan of Mangy. So thank you very much indeed, gentlemen. You are all gentlemen today, except no, you're not. Morning, Lou. Lou Carney has just joined us as well. So, gentlemen and lady, good of you to join us, Lou. I don't know where you break up for your Christmas break, but Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. See you sometime in 2024. Now, let's have a little bit of this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
If you were here yesterday, you may recall that we were... No, it wasn't yesterday. It was the day before because I screwed up yesterday. If you were here on Monday, let me try that again. You will recall that we were talking about all things site dumpers, or more specifically, we were talking about Wacker Neuson site dumpers. Well, we're going to stick with the dumper theme, only this time we're going to do so in the company of the mighty Mechalak. What it is, I can't quite put my finger on it, but there is a certain quirkiness to both Mechalak and to Wacker Neuson. Speaking of whom, Callum McIntosh. Good morning, Callum. I'm not sure when you're finishing for the Christmas festivities, but good morning and a Merry Christmas to you. I'm a fan of the Mechalak MDX. I bought the first 6 MDX in Scotland, but this 3.5 is too heavy to be road towable. Pipped by Wacker Neuson again, ? He says with a big grin. Good question. Let's have a look. Dan the man says, hot with the cabbed version. Footy says, you have to be careful when loading them, even if it's got a cab on it. Totally agree. Let's have a look. Somebody else said something there as well. Seems to have vanished for some reason. But yes, quite a fan of the Mechalak and the Wacker Neuson. And the Thwaites and anybody else that makes dumpers, to be perfectly honest. Let's have a little bit of this, shall we? Just before we go any further, I am going to display a comment from our friend from stateside, our friend Wolfwelder 69. He reckons the Mechalac is a go-kart dump truck. I kind of see where you're coming from. Let's have a look now. Yeah, next up, we're going to take a closer look at a new mini excavator from Case. But this is not just any mini excavator. This one is all electric.
Hello everyone, I'm Umberto Celestini, Case Mini Excavators Product Manager, and I'm here at 2023 Case Roadshow to give you a preview of our new fully electric mini excavator, CX25EV. CX25EV is a high technological machine. I give you a clear example to show that. It is fully electro-hydraulic and an operator can adjust the speed of each movement of the machine by the electronic display that is available on the screen. This is very simple. It can be adjusted from 0 to 100% of the available flow, and it's very intuitive and very user-friendly.
Yeah. Now, before we go any further, I do just need to check very quickly with our resident electric equipment expert, Mr. Travolta. What do you reckon, John?
It's electrifying!
Yeah, thanks, John. I'm inclined to agree.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
No one likes a bully, and I can say that safe in the knowledge that my pet stalker, who hasn't troubled me in about 5 or 6 years, he's back in circulation, hassling other people. But I digress. No one likes a bully, but I would make an exception for a power bully. Have to say, I think that looks very smart indeed. Also lives up to its name. One powerful looking dumper. Now, a couple of things. I want to say good morning to Steve Williamson, who has just joined us. Good morning, Steve. Complete with your Christmas tree and your comment. Welcome back. Good to see you here. And I want to say, Callum McIntosh, you just asked me a question offline. Yes, it is. I think that makes it pretty clear. Apparently your fella has cancelled his account. I can't believe it wasn't cancelled for him. Trust me, he'll be back. He will be back. That is, oddly enough, I mean, I'm not going to get into it because, frankly, I don't give a toss. I really don't. But I got a restraining order against the guy, must be 5 or 6 years ago now. And I was expecting him to just pop back as soon as the restraining order, which lasted for 2 years. As soon as that was over, I expected him to darken my doorstep. He hasn't darkened my doorstep. However, he has been out to get mainly women, has a problem with women, apparently, including Amy the Digger Girl, who very sensibly deleted the comments that he'd made and blocked him as well. But yes, my pet stalker apparently is back in circulation. So look out for that, because last time he came for me, and when he didn't get a rise out of me, he went for my viewers, readers, subscribers, advertisers, clients, the whole kit and caboodle. So if he gets in touch with you, sorry.
If you would like to buy a limited edition Break Fast Show sticker, head on over to buymeacoffee.com/demolition news/extras.
And so, as the Christmas spirit swells within us all, I'm going to try it again. As the Christmas spirit swells within us all, it's time to look at how those fine folks at Bobcat will be lighting up the festivities this year. And if that doesn't put a smile on your face, then frankly, nothing will. Merry Christmas to Bobcat, and thanks for your support this year. I spent quite a bit of time with Bobcat this year and thoroughly enjoyed every single second of it. Right, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into... No, I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping reindeer-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. If you do have the time and the inclination, please stick around. I have nowhere else to be. I have nothing else to do. Stick around. And I'll be back with the Craic immediately after this. Can you hear that? Hope you can. I'm going to turn it down a little bit, but we've got a nice little festive playlist in the background. Speaking of playlist, just a quick reminder, I've uploaded. I wouldn't say it's finished, but I have uploaded the Break Fast Sow Bangers playlist. I'm sorry, I'm fiddling with my Stream Deck at the moment. Take my word for it, I am. You can see the link in the chat to the Break Fast Sow Bangers, and there's some absolutely corking tunes in there. There's some rock, quite a bit of rock actually, but there's a bit of dance in there. But it's all very upbeat. The sort of, I know what I'm like. If I'm driving and I put that sort of playlist on, I am going to be driving probably a bit quicker than I need to. That's all I'm going to say. But enjoy the Break Fast Sow Bangers. Who was first off the mark this morning? It was our friend Footy. Good morning to you, sir. I hope you're fit and well. I knew I was going to get some grief after yesterday's absence. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, guys. Welcome back, Mark. Part-timer, says Gary Muirhead. Do you know the biggest frustration? If I'd arrived yesterday morning and had no internet, it would have been a frustration, but I'd have coped with it. The problem I had yesterday was I had no internet, and then about 10 minutes before we were due to go live, I had internet. So, what a relief. I'm ready to roll. It's gone again. And it was literally like that all day long, well, up until about 2:30 yesterday. So, yeah, my apologies for my absence yesterday. Beyond my control. Dan Cullen, who is now watching over on YouTube. You should be seeing it in probably slightly better quality over there, Dan, because it can actually take a 4K broadcast. Some of the others, not so much. Chris Ford is here as well. Good morning, Mark and everyone. Thank God for that. I thought my phone had broken down. Yeah, I listen, when I finally got my internet back up and running, I had quite a few messages saying, what the hell happened to you? Virgin Media happened to me. And I can't grumble because we did have some issues a couple of years ago, but they installed super fast broadband where I am now, and it's been absolutely faultless until yesterday. But I don't think that's bad. I mean, we have broadcast more than 200 shows this year, which bearing in mind the fact that I've been overseas, taken holidays and stuff like that, not bad. And I think yesterday was the first technical outing we'd had. So not bad at all. Mark Whiting is in the house. Good morning, Mark, and a Merry, Merry Christmas to you. I know we're not quite there yet. I've got a couple more of these shows to get through, but I don't know when I'm going to be seeing you guys for the last time. So I'm going to start saying good Merry Christmas, just in case you all go off and do something far more interesting. Dan, your man, says he's going to be checking out my my latest column. It's called Spare a Thought, and it is all about, well, it's mainly about the fact that we've got a lot of demolition construction workers who are currently out of work or are facing a degree of uncertainty about employment over the Christmas period. But it also goes into how construction and demolition workers are treated, how they've been commoditized. They can just be picked up and put down and nobody can do a damn thing about it. That's the main part of the story. If you'd like to have a look, the link's in the chat, or you can just go to what's it called, demolitioninsider.substack.com, or you can go and have a look over on LinkedIn. It's on all of the places. Go and have a look. Now, my question of the day was this: will you be watching the King's Speech on Christmas Day? Now, as I've said, and Wolf Welder, you are given a pass on this, given the fact that you are the right side of the pond. But yes, we've had, I don't know, how many years was it? 60 years or thereabouts of the Queen's Speech. And without boring you too much with the details, in Demolition News Towers, which is where I'm sat right now, there has long been a tradition. We used to host my wife's parents on Christmas Day and my parents on Boxing Day. Well, obviously my parents are no longer with us, so I'll be going to my daughter's house on Boxing Day. But on Christmas Day, for the last 30 plus years, we have hosted my wife's parents. Both of them like to see the Queen's Speech and get all fully excited about what colour she might be wearing. Don't fully understand it myself. I don't think I've ever actually sat down and watched one. The Queen came on TV and I, get the Hoover out or something like that. Not bothered, but I know it's a big deal to some people. So my thought was, bearing in mind this is momentous to some, it is the first King's Speech in 60 years or whatever it might be, will people be tuning in? And it appears not so much. We'll get to that in just a second. Chris Ford says, I look forward to having my button pushed. It doesn't happen often these days. Tell me about it. Glenn Johnson says, good morning, everyone. Our friend Mick Saunders says, good morning, one and all. Oh, excuse me. Jim Turner's in the house as well. And there's our friend Wolf Elder. Now, is there, just a very quick question, is there an American equivalent of the Queen's Speech? Does Sleepy Joe get on the TV on a Christmas Day and say, hi all, and it's been a great year, or it's been a terrible year on it? Is there an American equivalent to the Queen's Speech? I don't know the answer to that. So Gary Muirhead was first off the mark, says, only if it's on when I'm in front of the TV, but I won't be going out of my way to watch it. That's more or less how I feel about it. That is more or less how I feel about it. Footy says, how about some Metallica? S&M, don't know that one. Not the biggest Metallica fan. I appreciate a lot of people are, and I appreciate the fact that they do some, not really my cup of tea. But there is currently no Metallica on the Break Fast Sow Bangers playlist. But I'll go and give that one a listen, and if I deem it appropriate, I'll add it to the list. Ken Hatcher is out for breakfast as he's finishing today. Ken, I don't know if that means you're finishing today and that means you won't be here tomorrow. If that's what it does mean, Merry Christmas, happy, safe, prosperous New Year. Failing that, if you're here tomorrow, scratch that. I'll say it again on Friday. Mick Saunders, will you be watching Old Sausage Fingers on Christmas Day? Apparently, Mick Saunders will not. Dan says, good morning, everyone. I don't know who's in here as I'm on YouTube. There are a few, I think. Wouldn't be Christmas Day without listening to the King's Speech. Be a first, says Chris Ford. Okay. There is my other half explaining exactly what I just explained. We will watch because my mum will definitely want to. It won't be the same. We always try to guess what colour the Queen would be wearing. Maybe we should give the job to Elton John now. Colour the Queen, never mind. Question of the day. Jim Turner says, yes, if I'm near a telly, I like them pair. Okay. I thought we were going anti-royal, but apparently we've just swung back in the other direction. Okay, we've just swung back again. Footy won't be watching. Not going to watch that little git. No intention of watching him do whatever he wants. Okay. Dan says, I never watched the speeches. Never interested me. That's my point. Listen, I've got no real time for the royal family, but that's the biggest thing. Never interested me. You know, let's be honest. We all know, you know, there's going to be a mention of the NHS. There's going to be a mention of the war in Ukraine. And there'll be a mention of the environment and all. We all know how it's going to pan out. It's just the order he does it in and whether he chooses to pitch up in a kilt or not. Will he be wearing medals? And if he is, did he earn any of them? Just saying. Now, we started with that Manly telehandler stroke boom lift. And Dan, your man, likes it a lot. Footy says, be better on tracks, otherwise it gets stuck quite easy. I think it's mainly for on-road type work, but absolutely. And I don't fancy going that. Yeah, 44 metres. That's a little bit too high for me. And I as I say, I don't particularly have any problems with heights, but I'd rather stay on the ground if given the choice. There we are, 44 metres, that is high. Jim Turner says he could do with that to trim some sycamore trees. I don't know where you might find Manly UK, but tell them I sent you. It won't get you anything for free. They probably don't even know who the hell I am. But you can tell them that anyway. Gary Muirhead is a fan of the Manly as well. Lou Carney, who must be winding down, surely. Winding down in advance of winding back up again come February, the executive hire show, and plenty to do between now and then as well, I would imagine. Let's have a look. Happy hump day to the wonderful Lou Carney. Hope all is well. Callum McIntosh is with us as well, and I've already said good morning and Merry Christmas to Callum, because again, I don't know when some people are finishing, but thank you for joining us, Callum. I'll come back to one of your comments in just a second. But yes, the person about whom you were speaking offline, yeah, that was my stalker. I'd be interested to see if he has actually left or whether he's just going to pop back up in another guise. Let's have a look. There is Callum again. I'm a fan of the Mechalak MDX. I bought the first 6 MDX in Scotland, but this 3.5 tonner is too heavy to be road towable. Pipped by Wacker Neuson again. Is that a UK regulation, or bearing in mind Mechalak are French? Are the regulations different in France, continental Europe? Don't know the answer to that. Good point though. Looks well comfortable for a dumper. Yeah, and bearing in mind we were talking about dumpers on Monday about how they had advanced to a certain degree. Now look at the Wacker Neuson, look at the Mechalak, cabs, for example, but not just cabs, but well-equipped cabs, digital displays, and Bluetooth and GPS. I don't know if they've got GPS, but you get the idea. Yeah, they've come a long way indeed. And yet, our friend Wolf Welder still says, go-kart dump truck. Are site dumpers really a big deal in America? Do you have many? I'd love to hear from you. Chris Ford says, Jim Turner, have you tried putting a 35-degree cut in the bottom followed by a horizontal cut? That will enable you to trim the top of your trees, and the bonus is it will keep you warm for at least 3 times. Are we talking cutting down trees or semi-cutting down trees here? Don't know, but thank you for the advice. There are a few that need coming out altogether, so they will be getting the treatment. Wow. Cold on that digger. Which digger was that? Yes, the electric one. Yes. Now, Dan Cullen says, I feel any machine above 6 tons shouldn't be electric. I think that will be close to the cutoff point, but I wouldn't go as far as to say that they shouldn't be electric, and I can see what he's saying here, as it takes more power to charge and run. But some applications, if you've got an application that requires electric, zero emissions, live hospital, for example, live school, something like that, and if it needs a 20-tonner and you've got a 20-tonner, particularly if you can charge it sustainably, wind or solar or water or something like that, why the hell not, I say. Now, where are these manufactured? And I don't know where that came in the grand scheme of things. I think that may have been related to the Power Bully, and I'm fairly sure it's an American brand. I don't actually know. Gary, if you can let me know which one you're talking about, and I'll do some digging for you. Steve Williamson, with his Christmas tree, has joined us. Morning, Steve. Merry Christmas to you and your good lady wife as well. Hope you have a fantastic Christmas. And to Freddie as well, because, have to say Merry Christmas to the dogs. Apparently, your fella has cancelled his account. I can't believe it wasn't cancelled for him. I was sent earlier this week. This is going off at a tangent, but I will come back around. I was sent earlier this week, back on Monday, I think it was. A friend of mine in the demolition industry had received a message on Facebook offering him lots of different competence cards without sitting exams and tests and stuff. And when he and I checked out the website, you could also buy a British driving license as well. No need to take a test. You can just buy it. Obviously illegal, obviously spurious, blah, 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 blah. The problem with that is that the companies that are doing that pop up, do a bit of business, vanish. Pop up, do a bit of business, vanish. And that is exactly how my stalker works. He comes in, lights the blue touch paper, upsets a whole bunch of people, and then buggers off again. As I say, I've seen him having a dig at various women. I mean, come on. Set aside your cave painting and come into the 21st century, would you? Women, they're lovely. And they're more than welcoming in the construction industry. More power to them, I say. And the reason I always thought my stalker had it in for me was jealousy. Not that. Listen, I'm not Brad Pitt here, but I always got the impression he was just jealous that somebody from outside the industry, i.e., a pen pusher, a journalist, had come into his industry and had been relatively successful in doing so. And I think he resented that. And now I think he had exactly the same issue with Nick Drew. Nick Drew, who is of the industry, actually an operator, but Nick had gone from operator to blogger to vlogger to global superstar, and he had a problem with that. So the same guy had a go at Nick, and now he's having a go at women for precisely the same reason. Why should it be a problem for a female digger driver to come into the industry, learn the ropes, do the job, and then prove herself successful on social media? Where's your problem? Let's have a look. Steve Williamson says, some price tag on them track dumpers. Yeah, I bet there is. A tank dump truck. Take my money, says Wolf Welder. Yeah, absolutely. What is the largest track dumper available? Do you know, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, Prinoth makes some pretty big ones. There is Gary Muirhead says, still waiting on the JCB Christmas video. Tomorrow. It lands tomorrow. Don't you worry about that. If my stalker gets in touch with Footy, he's going to get his size 17 shoes somewhere he won't like, I bet. Are track dumpers the way forward? They've been about for years, a bit like mini diggers knocking about, and all of a sudden everyone has one. They've always been a very specialised piece of kit, and yet, I think we have a preference for tracked excavators over wheeled excavators. I realise wheeled excavators in the right application have certain advantages, but by and large, I think we are a track-friendly industry. Why not track dumpers? We actually featured one on, was it on Monday or was it Friday last week, of Anglian Demolition doing their coastal work over in Norfolk, where coastal erosion was potentially threatening some houses there, and they had some track dumpers there. Absolute beasts and doing the job very, very nicely indeed. Nice one, Bobcat, says our friend Footy. Yeah, bring him on. The dog has a large appetite. Listen, I'm not going to devote too much time to somebody of that ilk, but I will tell you, when I initially made my complaint to the police sent a couple of officers round to his house not to arrest. It was more a case of, could you just stop? That will do. Just could you just stop? And he set his dog on him and put both of the police officers in the hospital. So your dog having a large appetite, it might need an even larger appetite than that. He wouldn't know what hit him if he came at me. A mad paddy. You never cross a mad paddy. It's a fair comment. There you are. There is a link to our Break Fast Show bangers as well. Dan, you man is going back to work. Listening only. Are you on Friday? I am. I'm working tomorrow and I'm working on Friday as well. I'm going to see it right the way through to the very bitter end. I might be late tomorrow. I've got another blood test again. Best of luck with that. Chris Ford, I'll give Spotify a go. Never used it. I've got to be honest. I'm not a big Spotify user. There's a couple of podcasts that I listen to that I can only, for one reason or another, I can only find there, and they're fine. But we broadcast our podcast on Spotify, among other places as well. So I've occasionally dabbled with it. But one thing it is very, very, very good for is sharing playlists. We did one probably 5 or 6 years ago. Myself and my mate John Woodward did one purely for Demolition, and there was a theme. We had things like Came In Like a Wrecking Ball by Miley Cyrus, so there was a Demolition theme. With the Break Fast Show bangers, all we've done is just compile a list of 60 plus songs that will just make you want to bang your head and demolish stuff. And I've just thought of another one that should go in there. Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit probably needs to go in. Bit sweary, but Mick Saunders says got stuck in the lift last night after walking the dog. He was not a happy chappy when they finally opened the doors. I can tell you. At least it was after walking the dog. You wouldn't want to be locked in there just before you're walking the dog when he's about to perform his ablutions. Happy humbug, says Footy. And he also says, rather watch Top of the Pops than watch The King. Top of the Pops doesn't exist anymore, does it? I don't think it exists anymore. Good job. She doesn't like jumping through windows by the sound of it. Question of the day, Steve Williamson. I'd rather watch an Christmas episode of the Break Fast Show than watch The King Speak. Well, I remember the Beatles said they were bigger than Jesus. Well, I'm bigger than the King, at least in the Williamson household. It's a no for me. Sausage fingers, although I tune in if he dissolved Parliament. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Wouldn't that turn the world on its head, eh? Wouldn't that be fantastic? There are times, and unfortunately it always seems to be bad news, but whenever you get some major news and you can just sit back and watch, you imagine if Charlie Boy actually said, that's it, this Sunak fella, clearly a clown, let's get rid, dissolve Parliament. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Lou Carnes is thinking about winding down. To be honest, still really jaded from the COVID hangover. Yeah, it has taken its toll on people, and the number of people that have got it. I know my wife was supposed to be out this weekend with all her old girlfriends from school, and one by one they all succumbed to COVID. It's not gone away. Is Canned Heat on the playlist with On the Road Again? Sounds like what a lot of operators will be doing this year. That's a fantastic suggestion. I'm going to note that one down. On the Road Again. Awesome. Question of the day. Probably not. I'll be in haze of champagne and in the throes of construction monopoly. You're one of the monopoly people, are you? Yeah, not me. Not me. The track dumper. Okay, I will go and find out where the Power Bully is made for you, Gary. Not a problem at all. Is that Satchmo playing in the background? It is not. It is not. Wouldn't that be lovely, though? Do you know I bought my wife a boxer dog for her 21st birthday, and he was called Satchmo in honour of Louis Armstrong. But no, that's not Louis Armstrong playing in the background. On the dumper, you may well be right. In France, you can tow 4 tons, unlike here where it's 3.5 tons. Could be a decider, but I think Wackenhausen had the right idea, pitching for the bigger market. Who knows? But both still great dumpers. And yes, great dumpers, and that little bit quirky. A little bit quirky. I do like that. We have a woman operator here on site driving a 14-ton case with a tilt hitch. Now, let me ask you a question, Steve. You're working alongside a woman. Does your masculinity feel threatened at any point? Are you sat there thinking she's stealing a job from a fellow testicle wearer? Is that bothering you at all? Or are you just thinking, I've got another worker who happens to be on a 14-ton case with a tilt hitch? My guess is probably the latter. Has the quaffing of the champagne started early? Not in this house, it hasn't, but there is a bottle of gin here, if anybody's interested. Jim Turner says most bullies are sad pricks whose life headspace is a very unhappy place. They try to drag everyone else down too. It's a strange thing. When you first start getting a bit of a following on YouTube, you find yourself in a bit of a loop where lots of people are talking about how to get more followers and everything else, but everybody comes up with the same things. There is always the threat of burnout if you're doing, like I do, a daily show. Can you keep it up? Well, I'm 3.5 years in and no sign of stopping yet, so that isn't a problem. But there's always this thing about what to do when you get the inevitable haters, people that don't like what you do or don't like you or both or whatever it might be. And there's always this idea that they are projecting. They've got an issue themselves and they are projecting it onto you. And you'd be surprised just how often that turns out to be true. As I say, I mean, the guy that pursued me for a couple of years, I'd never met him, but he got it into his head that I'd offered him some sort of business partnership because he was, like I say, I mean, I don't work in partnership with anyone. So why would I work in partnership with somebody I'd never met? But they get a bee in their bonnet, and this guy's he had a bee in his bonnet for me, he had a bee in his bonnet for Nick Drew, then he went away for a little while, and now he's come back and he's got a bee in his bonnet for Amy Underwood, the Digger Girl, among others. Chris Ford, I've never had a stalker. Once had a large following. They followed me out of the battle cruiser and beat the crap out of me. That is the problem. Again, I don't want to give too much airtime to the guy, but he did make a veiled threat to me in the run-up to a Hillhead show some years ago. And the problem is, because we'd never met, I had no idea what he looked like. So, I literally spent 3 days walking around Hillhead, and you'd see people walking towards you up an aisle, and you're thinking, is this the guy? Is this guy going to take a swing at me? No, just walked past, went about his business. 3 days of being on tenterhooks, which is no way to be. Does everyone forget about what the king was like in the early days? Horrible person. Yes, does seem to be. It was a present. If you're talking about my bottle of gin, it was a present. It was from Xbox. There's a photo of me holding a bottle of gin over on LinkedIn as we speak. But I did get a present. No, okay. Let me wind back. The Monopoly was a present. I'm back on board. There is, for those of you that don't know, it does sound like I'm talking complete balls, which frankly is not unusual. There is a construction monopoly, and I know, I think Komatsu and Takuchi, possibly JCB, and Construction Index have been involved. It's a proper kosher monopoly board game, but rather than top hats and cars, there are diggers to move around the thing. I don't know what the theme of the various spaces are. As I say, I've not seen one, but yes, that's what we're talking about. That's where the monopoly is all about. McSaunders, gentleman and lady, ho ho effing bleeding ho, have a good Christmas, hopefully a bloody better new year, just in case I forget. Thank you very much indeed, Mick. Same to you. Be good to hear from actual operators on track dumpers. Yeah, we could do with a few of those, because they're one of those bits of kit. I'm fairly sure it must be like rarity value. You don't see that many. So when you do see one, it's like, oh, that is a beast. I do like that. Yeah, could do with a few of those. If anybody knows any track dumper operators that have got bugger all better to do at 10 o'clock in the morning, UK time, then please tell them where I hang out. One final thing, and I'm going to post it one last time. And I'm not doing this for my own benefit here. I would like to think, listen, this is a relatively little show in a relatively big industry. But there is, at the heart of the article that I've written for today, there is a message to the wider industry. And I would like as many people to read it as we possibly can. So if you can share it, I'd be grateful. And the basic premise is, I'm not going to go over it for too long, but the basic premise is, you went back 20, 30 years, lots and lots of men, and predominantly men, but men and a few women were directly employed by contractors, by plant hirers, and so on down the line. In the past 3 decades or so, more and more people have been taken off the books, and they've either become self-employed or they're working through an agency, sometimes both, and so on down the line. The problem with that, much the same as we've allowed the rise of the 0-hour contract, is that employers can pick up workers and put them down without a second thought. I realise it's an economic decision, and I realise that redundancies are a thing, and all of the things, I'm well aware of all of that. But it's a weird analogy to draw, and I'm going to go over to Garvin at Mostly Diggers in just a second, but it's like the difference between being married and living with somebody. And I realise common law and all of that, but if you are just living with somebody, you can basically pack your bags and bugger off, or pack their bags and tell them to bugger off without a second thought. If you are married, i.e. if you are employed, you have a commitment, a legal commitment to those people. Unfortunately, we've got a situation now. When it first started, the idea was we will pick up staff and we'll work with them all the while the going is good. That's not the case anymore. The case now, and Dan Cullen personally has experienced that this year, as have others, it's pick them up for a project, get rid. Pick them up for a project, get rid. Pick them up for a project, get rid. You've got no job security, no financial security, and that has got to be bad for the mental health of the workers, for the long-term well-being of the industry, and everything else. That is basically what prompted my article today. Construction monopoly. How long do you have to wait to get paid? My guess is 120 days, but well said, sir. 120 days, and there will be retentions involved. Mick Saunders says, I'm off for my dripping session at hospital. Stay safe, people. For God's sake, if you're drinking over the next few days, leave your bloody cars and diggers parked up. Sound advice, sir. Sound advice. I can't remember the last time I worked alongside a woman on site, either as an operator or on the ground, but I'm all for it. We're just people, man, woman, straight or gay. It makes no odds to me as long as they are sound people. Do you know, I was actually thinking, not for Demolition side, I was actually thinking about writing something about that. About how it doesn't actually matter. It literally doesn't matter. You know, I was coming at it actually from a gay trans perspective, because if you're working with somebody, at what point does that become an issue? You know, if I was sent, we're in talks with a mini excavator manufacturer about doing some work with it at the moment, and you know, at some point, if we get the green light, we'll be turning up with a camera crew and microphones and all that sort of stuff. And I don't know whether the person at the other end of that conversation is going to be male, female, or hovering somewhere between the two. Up to them. What possible difference does that make to me? I don't care. As long as I get the job done and they pay me, I don't give a toss. Doesn't matter at all. Footy says the track dumper I used to have a ticket to drive them. Unfortunately, I let it go, but they're a damn good machine. Yeah, they certainly look it. Right, people. Despite the fact, and maybe because we missed a show yesterday, and apologies again, despite the fact that I was expecting some sort of wind down by now, we do have another packed show for you tomorrow, including, as I've already promised, a JCB Christmas video. So, if you are around, please tune in. If you're not, if this is you done, Merry Christmas. Thank you for being here all this year, and have a great new year. A safe and a prosperous one, and a fully employed one as well. But if you are around tomorrow, I'd love to see you. Till then, all the best.